tell you what I had happened to me this weekend? And it's along the lines of Frank Reynolds. I get it now.
Oh, during Pride Month even.
Has nothing to do with Pride. Well, it's a euphemism for a thing, but all right. So, dear listeners, you guys don't know about
the
this.
Eggplant is a penis, Beth.
I know that.
Oh, okay.
But I am going through right now as an adult what we have fondly called my pickle journey.
Yes. I heard about your recent development.
Which is not a euphemism for penises.
This pickle is an actual pickle. It's not a penis.
Because I ate pickles as a kid, and then I just decided as a child, I don't like these anymore, and I stopped eating them. And now as an adult, like, I've shied away from them, and I was like, I'm a grown adult. I should probably try pickles again and see what the hype's about. So I've tried various different pickles of store-bought degrees
from the jar in the can vial.
Well, I gotta start small because I don't really want to buy like $12 artisanal pickles.
I wish we could have started you off right, though.
But then, Buddy the Elf coworker brought in fresh pickled pickles, like homemade fresh pickled. Like, they literally were cucumbers that were stuck in the jar like 2 days before, and we had a very tough day. We were having lots of like mechanical issues at the library. Mm-hmm. Like, our dishwasher wasn't working, our coin box was being weird, like, and me and our other coworker were just on the ground scooping yucky water out, like doing a whole thing. And so by lunchtime, we're like, we deserve this pickle. Oh my god.
I told you.
I ate 3 pickle spears without even like skipping a beat. It wasn't too sour for me. It wasn't like,
it's not that weird fake toxic green.
It wasn't, they were crisp. They were still so crisp. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm going to be chasing this pickle high.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
Like, forever. And I'm just like, I think I need to learn how to pickle things so that I can have fresh pickles all the time.
They invited me to come to their house this summer, so that their mom could teach me how to pickle garlic. And she was like, it's going to be a whole day thing. So I'm sure we could just make it a pickle party if that were ever to happen. And I would bring my like 8 pounds of garlic to pickle, and you could bring cucumbers. I also say pickled green beans are incredible.
It's interesting premise. We'll see how that goes. But I'm still on this pickle journey, and I'm like forever chasing this pickle high now. And I had them, and I've been thinking about them. And I was like at the supermarket yesterday, and I was like, I'm gonna try. This is a different supermarket than I go to. I'm gonna try these pickles. So we'll get back to that.
From like the deli section, like the fresh section. Yes.
So
don't go back down that jar aisle. Don't turn around. Well, and go
I did
that
go
way
down
again.
the fresh section, and I got this like mom and pop pickle jar, and their garlic they're too salty. Like, I'm like,
for me that doesn't exist.
Well, then I'll just give you this giant jar of pickles.
I'll just drink the juice right out of it. I bought pickle popsicles because I've been training for this race we're running, and it's summertime and it's so hot, and so they're like the freezer pop. But it's just, it's like pickle juice. They're not sweet. It's pickle juice, essentially, in freezer pop things, and you stick them in the freezer, and then you eat them after you run, because it's cool and refreshing in that way, and then it replenishes your electrolytes and your salt.
I don't know how I feel about that. I'm still, like,
It's just a really cold pickle.
I'm working my way through this journey, but, yeah. So not a euphemism for pride, but that euphoria that
feels right that you had a life-changing pickle in your mouth during Pride Month.
And that Frank Reynolds, I get it. Mm-hmm. I get it. I'm like, yeah, me too, Frank, me too. And I'm just like, god damn it. As soon as after I ate the first one, I'm like, this is gonna fucking ruin the tour. This is gonna be terrible.
Are you kidding? That is the tour. I'm like, this is like the band's getting back together now, because now when other coworker and I are like in pickle mode at work, now you're like, you can join in.
I did try one of the spicy pickles they had. It was too spicy for me. I was not there. I was having a heartburn day, so it was not a #good time. But yeah.
I'm going to an outdoor concert tonight, and I'm going to have to like grab I have a full pickle in a pouch that I bought that's a spicy pickle. I'm going to have to like grab it because I'm getting like a lot of extra spit in my mouth right now talking about pickles.
I'm going to give you a whole jar of pickles.
Well, we're getting Lebanese food to take to this concert because the concert is Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I was like, that's about as close as we can get food wise to where it takes place.
Yeah.
A little theme. But now I just want a pickle, and the pickled turnip in my rolled pita is not going to be enough.
Sorry, dear listeners, you had to listen.
Do you see how low my mic is right now? It's falling. I didn't realize it until just then.
Why are we having so many issues today with these bad boys? They I don't know. They have a mind of their own.
Who's the weird Ohio guy?
James Willis.
In your closet over there?
James Willis.
I feel like he is coming out at night and he's trying to like contact the police through these to like get help getting out of your basement.
I'm just picturing the Beastie Boys like video for sabotage.
Either that or Freddie and Chucky are doing a podcast at night and they're like using these to climb up on the couch.
Yeah, that could be it too. Another thing I've had to deal with this weekend is it's my least favorite time of year for summer because it's around 4th of July.
Yes.
And I have a toddler, my tater tot, and I have a 80-pound baby boxer pit mix named Bear. And you know, some dogs don't care about fireworks. My dog does not feel that way. In terms of fight or flight mode, he always wants to fight the fireworks, which means he's jumping up and like barking his head off. But that doesn't work for me because this is happening at like 10, 11 o'clock at night and my tater tot is asleep. And said tater tot's like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "Buddy, those are fireworks that are shooting off in my neighborhood 3 houses down." And then we bought, Bear a Thunder shirt, and now I'm like, can I call the sheriff's department and say, "Hey, they're shooting off," and I'm like looking up Ohio 10 o'clock at night, looking up stupid Ohio fireworks laws, and I cannot. So this is a PSA for you, dear listeners. You can shoot off fireworks in your neighborhood, but there are very specific parameters, like you can't shoot them off inside of places, which makes sense. People are supposed to be between 50 to 150 feet away, which means if you're shooting them off in your backyard, chances are the people are not far enough away.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that is illegal. So I'm like, maybe I could get somebody on that. But you can also, you're only supposed to shoot them off during certain holidays. So it'd be like 4th of July. And then it said the weekend directly before and the weekend directly after 4th of July. So I was like, shit.
That's, we're recording that's like this weekend.
Yes. So,
and as you're hearing it, it'll be the next weekend.
Yeah. So I'm like, great. I'm looking forward to this monstrosity of a weekend.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
My dog that I used to have was like terrified of any noises like that. And we used to have to dose her with melatonin, like human melatonin per her like body weight, and try to get her to eat it like a half an hour before sundown so she'd be asleep and then just hope she didn't wake up. My cat is like hit or miss on it. He's like, sometimes he's just like, whatever, I'm just chilling, it's not enough. But then every once in a while he'll like be very hyper aware of it and just looks at me like, what the fuck is happening?
Right.
And goes like full Halloween cat, like floofed up, like, "Mom, something's wrong. I don't know what's going on." My fear, because of like my anxiety, is always like my dumbass neighbor is going to set something off that's going to land on my roof and catch my house on fire. Like, that's always where my anxiety goes at this time of year.
Luckily, I live next to people that also have tater tots and dogs, so that's not my issue.
my neighborhood, the people shooting them off are like holding their tater tots while they're lighting it. So,
and fireworks have been such a contentious point with me in my childhood. Like, I didn't play with sparklers until I was a full-grown adult because my dad used to work at a hospital for a chunk of my childhood, and he saw some things. So there were a lot of things that we weren't allowed to have as children because too many ER visits. Yeah. Sparklers, firecrackers, trampoline, all those were big no-nos. I've never touched a firecracker in my life because I'm like, I don't see the point.
No, you know what? Fully will get on my soapbox about it. I feel that the people who set off fireworks, and some of you are probably friends that are listening to this, I feel that if you feel the need to blow shit up to enjoy your life, that you are severely lacking in a certain mental capacity. Like, it's okay. Maybe just read a book instead.
Or just go watch the fireworks.
They're never... Here's the other thing, and this is me being totally snooty. Having worked at fucking Disney World ruins all other fireworks for me. Well, I'm just not impressed. They're just like not really that interesting to me, unless you can spend like multi-millions of dollars on it. You know what I think is fucking cool though, even though I'm terrified of robots, this like drone shit that's happening now that people are moving to. Have you seen this? A lot of countries are like moving away from doing fireworks for like independence celebrations and like New Year's, and they're now doing drone shows where the drones light up and like paint pictures in the sky and they move, and so you're watching this cool like animated light show instead of like things that are terrible for the fucking environment and that are really dangerous for the people setting them off. And like it to me, I would rather we all do that. Like, I would rather move in that direction. Then I would maybe risk going to the super crowded, can't find parking anywhere celebrations around where we live to watch them. But to have to also battle crowds, to then just like smell smoke, see mediocre fireworks that like probably a quarter aren't even gonna actually go off right. That's to listen to all of the dogs and children who are like traumatized by how loud it is.
I had to find my tater tot little muffs.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
I had to go to so many sporting goods.
Working in the realm of like hearing loss. Being that close to that shit is not good for your ears.
No. So, yeah. This is apt. Appropriate.
We had a point. This wasn't just a random Beth and Britta like tangent.
No.
We were going somewhere with this.
Because today I don't put this as a true crime. Like, we talk about like when people are like picture podcast, I'm like true crime, spooky stuff, which entails movies and books. Okay, thank you, bye. All about Ohio.
Weird Ohio shit.
Yes.
This is the weird Ohio shit.
Yes. This is actually, yes, it's not quite that, but it's true crimey in the disaster it created and in the laws that it also created.
Yes.
And today we are going to talk about the Kresge fire, or they call it the Kresge Fireworks Explosion in Cleveland in 1908. So this was on July 3rd, 1908. Yeah. So it's now we are almost 120 years displaced from it, and people still haven't learned any type of bullshit about fireworks is what I'm trying to say.
Exactly.
That's it. That's the episode.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye. That's how Beth's tater tot says goodbye to me. Bye. Okay, so Kresge, Sebastian Spearing Kresge, spelled with a G, even though it sounds like a K, was an American businessman, and he created and owned 2 chains of department stores: the SS Kresge Company, which was one of the 20th century's largest discount retail organizations, and the Kresge Newark traditional department store chain, which, I didn't know this until I started researching this, was renamed in 1977 to the Kmart Corporation. This is where the K in Kmart comes from.
I never knew.
I never knew either. We were a big Kmart family.
Yeah, I went to Kmart a lot as a child.
Yeah.
And then when Super K, like, ooh,
oh my God, there's groceries here? Holy shit. Yes.
But then it was like when it moved to a different municipality, we're like, yeah, it's okay. And then it went downhill very quick. I don't know what happened to Kmart.
People stopped going there. Walmart pushed people out.
Yeah. Thanks, Walmart.
That was back in the days when I was like, Target, that's a fancy store. We can't go there. And now I go into Target like twice a week. Be like, I just need a little treat. And then I walk out $100 less in my bank account.
Yeah.
So he was born near Allentown, Pennsylvania. He lived on a family farm in Kresgeville. So like their family was kind of a big name around there. And he graduated and went to college in Poughkeepsie, New York. And then he worked in a hardware store for a couple years. He was a traveling salesman after that for a few years. He sort of like bounced around and worked at like a 5 and 10 cent store in Memphis, Tennessee. And then he started sort of like branching out into entrepreneurship and starting his own stores and businesses. The first Kmart opened in 1962 in Garden City, Michigan, which weirdly, when I was looking up the Kresge fire, because there's a lot of stuff named after him, there have been a lot of other fires in buildings that were named Kresge something. And I was like, wait, this is in Michigan. This is not what I'm looking for. Wait, this is in a different state. This is not what I'm looking for.
I just think, buddy, maybe you need to rethink how you plan and model your store plan and your models, and maybe what you sell in the stores, because stuff's flammable and you need to like prevent things from happening. As Smokey the Bear says, only you can prevent forest fires.
That's right.
Well, listen, Kresge, only you can prevent employees from dying in your shitty setups.
Jesus. In 2005, Sears Holdings Corporation kind of like became the umbrella company over Kmart and Sears. So that was the downfall.
That was the death of it. Yeah. Thanks, Sears.
Thanks, Sears. You're like the only place still open in a lot of malls. Yeah. So 1924, they established the Kresge Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization to promote the well-being of mankind. When he died, he'd given the foundation over $60 million.
Wow.
He was a prohibitionist, and he supported the Anti-Saloon League. So this guy sounds like a real wet blanket.
Sounds like fun, right?
Yeah, so there's like Kresge stores all over the place, and one of them happened to be on Ontario Street in downtown Cleveland.
There is a building there where the Kresge store used to be, but it looks different. So if you drove past it, you wouldn't even know that it's that. I guess, do you want to set the stage for it?
In like 1776, even then, John Adams was like we should be having big celebrations, like to celebrate this if this happens, like this is a big thing we're doing. So, you know, like the day after the Continental Congress, like approved the like, hey, we're going to send this letter that says, fuck you, Britain, we're out. But he was like, it should be like a large but solemn celebration of this. Like there should be like pomp and circumstance. There should, you know, parades, but like games and sports, and then you know, we'll celebrate this forever and ever. And then it became like we should have bonfires and illuminations. Then it became we should shoot off guns. And so like literally the first like 4th of July celebration that happened, they had like 13 gun salutes and bonfires and fireworks. So this is not necessarily a new way of celebrating the 4th of July.
No.
But it has it was not the extent that we have now. Like, clearly 1776 era fucking fireworks were not the shit that we have now, or even in the early 1900s.
Right. And at that point in the state of Ohio, the laws were really, really lax about fireworks. So, picture this. Kresge store is a 4-story building. 2 floors are being used as a store, and then there's 2 floors above it as like apartment type things, and then there's a basement. Now you have like the big windows, which you can kind of see from the 2nd floor, and there is a fire escape, and kind of the 2nd floor has like multiple window exits. But it is a 2nd story, so right. If you went to open a window and there was no fire escape, like, you're breaking something if you fall out of that window.
Yeah, which at that time, I guess maybe it's a different mentality because we didn't have the medical
yeah, if I were...
But we were recently in a training where it was like, well, what if you're on the 2nd floor and you've got to go out of the window because of something happening? And the person leading the training was like, personally, I'd rather have a broken leg than be shot to death, so... Yeah. And I'm like, good points. All good points. Yep. Also, I guess if you go limp like a baby, like, maybe you won't break things. Like, usually when adults fall, they break things because they, like, brace to, like...
Yeah.
And that's why, like, drunk people can fucking fall out of windows and be like, I'm fine! And, like, walk away.
And roll out of cars.
Because they don't know what's happening. They go limp. They don't brace themselves, so...
And then the main floor of Kresge's... So there was the opening entrance. There's a staircase that goes from the 2nd floor to the 1st floor. And then there is, on the left-hand side of the building, a back door, like, emergency exit. On the right side, there are windows, but they are boarded up by shelves and boxes and bars on the windows to deter thievery. So, like, there's windows there, but you can't get to them. And the aisleways are 3 feet across. 3 feet. That's right. About the distance Britta and I are sitting right now. 3 feet. I guess head to head.
A yardstick.
A yardstick. Which, I hope you can visualize that. That's not a wide, that is not ADA compliant. Not that we had, well, we did have wheelchairs back then, but who cares about them, right?
If you stuck your arms both out straight, you'd be like doubling that distance.
Yeah. Which most aisleways are usually...
Well, because now we have the ADA. So yeah, you have to be compliant. But...
So these aisleways were 3 feet. And Kresge's was a nickel and dime store. So so think of Kmart, but and think of Walmart, and think of, I'm trying to think of like local, like your local like drug stores and stuff like that, where they sell a little bit of everything. Yeah,
it's kind of a general store type place.
So, you have a little bit. You have postcard and like greeting cards. You have like fabric upstairs. You have, just like nails and like hardware stuff. Like it is a general store of like you have just a little bit of everything. So there were multiple people who were there. There were multiple workers. A lot of them were young women. They had, I read in this, they said 50 people in the store with workers, but I don't know if there was actually 50. I'm not sure. It's hard to tell.
I don't know if I've read as many names as that, but maybe they're just not included in things.
Right.
When the store opened at 9 a.m., you had Anna and Frida Treefall, who were sisters who both worked there. They had just come to Cleveland a year prior to live with their sister-in-law, and so they were there to open the store. You had Mary Hughes, who didn't work at the store but was at the store buying material for work. She was an assistant to a dressmaker who worked downtown. Ed Bolton was also in the store, not working. He worked as a shipping clerk at the WP Southworks store next door, and he weirdly had a tie to someone who worked in the Cleveland Fire Department. he had like 3 uncles who were members of the Cleveland Fire Department, and his uncle, who was Captain John Grady, had lost his life fighting a fire in 1891, so about 9 years prior to this. And then you had Jimmy Parker, who was 4 years old, who was in the store, I believe, with his mom, right?
Mm-hmm. Minnie.
Yes, Minnie Parker. And so he had come shopping downtown with his mom that day. And then there was also Luther Roberts, who was the janitor of the store, who was also in the store that morning.
And then you also had Winifred Duncan, who was she was 18 years old. She was a teenage clerk at Kresge's, and she usually sold postcards, but today she was asked to do something a little bit different for her job. So, again, picture this. Mm-hmm. You got this almost reminded me, and this is like really gonna like, when you have I've been in so many general stores in like those little small town Ohio.
I just kept thinking of the Ben Franklin in Oberlin.
But like big, like, but like multiple levels of it. And I've been to, there's like, in North Carolina, there's a place called like the Big Gay store. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's so much stuff piled on so much stuff. Yeah. And, so she was up towards the front, and they had fireworks on display, because at the time you could sell fireworks in the store like that, and it was very brazen. And she was told by her boss, hey, light a sparkler to get people to buy, it's the 3rd of July, get people to buy these fireworks for the 4th of July. So she decides to light a sparkler.
This is like roughly about 2 hours after the store opens. So almost 11 o'clock.
So she decides to light a sparkler over by where Minnie and Jimmy are. Mm-hmm. And
near the front window.
Near the front window where all the fireworks are. To the left of her is like the postcard aisle, which also has on display an American flag. Now, just a little history lesson. Do you know what the American flag and most people's clothes were made out of around that time? Cotton. Mm. Do you know what's extremely flammable?
Cotton.
Yes. So she's waving the sparkler around, and I don't know how, but if you've never been used a sparkler before, they're called sparklers because they spark. Because when you light it, little sparks of flame come. Like
they flicker off, yeah.
Well, one of those sparks landed on an American flag that was very close to Winifred when she's kind of waving it around. Mm-hmm. That flag caught on fire, and when that flag caught on fire, Minnie was standing right next to it, and her dress caught on fire. Now, this is like 1908, and generally speaking, even in the summertime, they would have been wearing very long skirts and like dresses. Right. So they got a whole lot of skirt to catch on fire. This fire entailed the flag, and that ended up catching the fireworks on fire.
Which is like not just sparklers, but there's Roman candles, rockets, firecrackers. And they're all sort of stacked in this, like, not even an end cap shelf. They're all just kind of like piled over there for people to pick through.
And to the left of that is the postcard aisle, which is paper. So you have fireworks and paper, and in the middle, fire starting it all.
Yes.
I don't want this to be taken like, Beth, you're taking this so lightly. I'm just so gobsmacked that like, yeah. I'm like, and what? Who thought that this was like fine?
Like, how differently would this have turned out if he was like, hey, go stand outside and wave around one of those sparklers to draw people's attention to come inside? Not even in the store, just outside on the street.
Yes.
Probably wouldn't have happened.
But instead, after she like did that and Minnie caught on fire, all all hell just kind of broke loose. So
they were Winnie and Minnie, Winifred and Minnie, were both kind of like trying to put out the dress, as one does. Like, this wasn't the era of stop, drop, and roll. They were like trying to, you know, stomp it out and pat it out. But then in the like doing that, the sparks from the dress are like going on the fireworks counter, everything else starts going off. So now you have like explosions in the store, which is becoming chaos because you also have people up on the second floor who are shopping.
Yeah, you have customers upstairs and downstairs, and you have all of these workers in the store.
Yeah,
like,
you've got the manager, Green, who's in the office, up on like the mezzanine.
Who's also with a clerk in the office.
Yes. Celia Zach was in there. They were like looking at the day's mail. Fanny Frank she lived in Collinwood. She was shopping on the second floor with her 4-year-old granddaughter, Grace. The dressmaker's assistant, Mary Hughes, was out in the sewing section on the second floor, probably working. Ed Bolton was like next door getting stuff ready to go. Carrie Booble was selling stuff at her counter on the second floor. Irma Schumacher, who was 18, was up there like watching the 50 or so female clerks who were working on the floor. And she had just been promoted essentially to like the overseer manager type position there to watch them, and was like, I'm working my way up the ranks. And then Muriel Mays was at her second floor counter. So that's also where Frida was, while Anna, her sister, was working downstairs. Mary Podowski was waiting for change from a $20 bill that she just paid for something with.
I have thoughts on Mary, but when we get to her.
Andrew Lemke was trimming lamps on a ladder on the first floor. There was a staff pianist, Hazel Thompson, who was playing one of the pianos in there. And she was like demonstrating sheet music for customers, and she just started playing a song called I Don't Want to Go Home in the Dark when all of this went down.
The store contained $30,000 worth of fire, that's $30,000, I'm assuming, in 1908 money.
I'm going to ask the Google bot how much that is.
So $30,000 worth of fireworks were sparked from the sparkler, which caught and the tree and the hole and the hole in the ground. It's the sparkler and the dress and the dress on, or the sparkler and the flag on the dress and the dress and the postcards
All
on
right, so $30,000 from 1908 is equivalent to Jesus.
Stop it. I don't want to know. Oh, that's $1 billion.
It's like $1,024,138,000 worth of fireworks. That is like an entire Phantom Fireworks warehouse.
Oh shit. So it's just madness at that point, right? It's going to be colorful. It's going to be super smoky. It's going to be so
and not just
loud.
Not like, oh no, the smoke is like wafting in from a fire in another room. Like, think about like when you're watching those fireworks displays on the 4th of July and like the thick freaking clouds of smoke that are coming up.
It reminds me of being in high school, and when my freshman year of high school, somebody had caught one of the in the girls' restroom, which was right next to my classroom.
That happened when I was in high school too, and that was 4 years before you.
But they caught like the toilet, not the toilet, they caught the trash bin on fire with their cigarettes. Yep. And I remember walking out and seeing like black billowing. It was smoke, but it was very thick smoke, and it stunk, not just because it was smoke, but because it was burning plastic.
Right.
So that's why it was so very black and thick, and it was just like billowing out of this tiny like doorway. And I'm like, oh, all right. Like, you know, because unfortunately, I feel like because you have drills, you do the drills on the off chance that something terrible is going to happen, as preparedness is good.
Right.
But when you do them so often, and as millennials, we did them twice a year, at least in school, that when it happens for real, you don't realize at first that it's happening. So like, I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like I have to get out of like, and then I walk out and it's just like black billowing smoke. And I'm just like, oh shit, we need to go.
Yeah.
I just imagine it's like that, but tenfold.
Yeah. And like, it's not even just like the like wood fire smoke. Like it's got a like sulfur smell to it too, just from like the nature. Like think of lighting like one match, but then like multiply that by like billions, and smoke and people screaming and chaos in very small spaces. And it's deafeningly loud because you're inside a building.
Right. And that's not to mention like the fireworks are going, but they're causing many fires to erupt within the store. And there's just so much that's flammable at that point.
Right. And it in like a minute or less, the entire first floor was essentially on fire, with up to 200 people trying to like get out. And Beth described the layout of this building. So like on the first floor, you've really only got like the front exit, which is where the fire is starting, and you've got the like back exit, but you've only got one side of the building back exit because the windows on the other side, remember, are blocked off because they didn't want people to bust them open and steal stuff. So you can't even get to those windows to break out and get out. And then you've still got the people who are up on the second floor who don't even know what's happening, essentially. They're just hearing this and maybe smelling the smoke. There's Max Zucker, who was a customer on the first floor, said that he was watching the sparkler. 1 second, he heard a sputtering noise, a skyrocket whizzed past his face over the heads of the crowd and set fire to combustible material on the counters.
I just imagine it's that
like the screamers.
Yeah.
People around me stood aghast for a few seconds, he said. A giant cracker exploded with a roar that set everyone into a mad dash for the front and rear exits. So now you also have a crowd of people panicking and running. The fire's spreading. Merchandise is on fire. People are on fire. They're running, which we know is the worst thing to do if you're on fire because you're just adding oxygen to that. They did not have stop, drop, and roll back then. They didn't practice that in kindergarten in Safety Town. From the next morning's Plain Dealer, they said there were big piles of fireworks that exploded and added to the noise and confusion. Giant crackers pounded and boomed. Skyrockets whizzed through the crowded room. Roman candles sputtered and flashed. It was a mimic battle, magnificent if it had not been so full of terror and death.
So people did try to go out the front door in the moments that they were panicking. Other people who were towards the back of the store did try to go to the aisle, like towards that back exit, and then they went towards the right, over by the right side of the building, because they like, oh, that looks dark and like nothing's happening, and nothing was happening because it's blocked off.
Right. And then there was the stairs in the middle to go upstairs.
And then the stairs, unfortunately, were starting to get like bottlenecked, because people were trying to come down and people were trying to come up. Like everyone was just trying to escape. So there was just kind of withering bodies in there.
Yeah. People tried to get in the elevator, which we also know you should not do in a fire, but it wasn't working. So then one person tried to use it and then they're like, all right, no elevator. They, on the second floor, started going to like the front and back windows as an attempt to get out, which, like, as we said earlier, you know, better to jump out a window and break your leg than to suffer the alternative.
Now I'm just thinking that video we watched where we did see like the nightclub on fire, where everyone piled at the door. That's terrifying.
And that happened here too. At the video she's referring to, we watched in that same training, and it was unfortunately like a band was playing at a nightclub, and I think it was in Rhode Island, and they set off pyrotechnics on the stage. They caused a fire very quickly, and most people in the disorientation tried to go back out the front exit that they came in, but then you got bottlenecked, and there was like something like 40 people died, and it was all in sort of that front area.
They died from the bottlenecking.
Yeah. And the same thing happened here. Like, as people were trying to go down the stairs, like, people are hysterical. They're panicking. They're piling up. A lot of these are, like, women, like, young girls working upstairs. So they're just getting stuck on the stairs.
Right.
And then there's also, like, a lot of kids in the store at this time, too, who don't know what's going on. So, like, then you just add in, like, screaming children in this panic, which is going to cause other people to panic. The majority, if not all of them, got like pulled out of that bottleneck into
a lot of them was
downstairs.
From the janitor that he happened to be upstairs, so he was like, as people were like trying to pile, he was like pulling people out, like, no, go out the window.
Yes.
Which, thank God, somebody was like thinking with just a little bit of like forward thinking,
right?
Because otherwise they all would have died. That would have been way more terrible than it was.
Right. So the fire department got there pretty soon after the fire started.
Which is impressive for 1908 because their fire engines are not what we have today, you know? Like, there's no computer, there's no like...
And I don't know how far away, like, I don't know what fire department deployed to that area. Like, I don't know how far away they were from this. Like, there is, like, where the fire... There's like a firefighter museum memorial type that right down by like Carnegie in Ontario.
Go on their website. It's not super updated because I was looking at it and I was like, what's your copyright on this? 2020. What did you do? Get bored during COVID? Yeah. And then you're like, all right, well, we got actual things to do now.
It is like at the corner of Carnegie and Ontario near the ballpark down there. And this was on Ontario, so I'm assuming probably from that same area. But again, like, unless they saw the smoke, like, I'm sure no one in the building is making an effort to call them and let them know. Like, it's gonna take, I mean, it's impressive that they got there as fast as they did. Yes. So even getting there as quickly as they did, like, it just spread so quickly and went up so quickly that, like, they get there, there's smoke pouring out of the window, there's like people like coming out of windows, coming out of the door, jumping out of the windows. The firemen get out like their ladders and nets trying to help. Which, and like
then
catch
I'm just
people
picturing
and climb
like
up.
Dumbo-esque like shenanigans.
Like
I'm like, oh my God, Beth, stop. It's like, I'm sorry.
They saved a lot of lives with the nets, but because of the smoke, people jumping out couldn't see the nets, so a lot of them missed the nets and broke bones. A lot of people jumped at the same time into the same nets, which was like too much weight, so then they just like smashed into the ground anyway and then hurt each other also, like, on the way down. Jimmy, who was at the front with his mom when this started, ran
so sad.
I know, he ran deeper into the store because he was panicking, and then his mom went looking for him, as you do. And then someone told her, no, it's okay, someone got a little boy out, they got your son out. So they convinced her to come out and go home. But by the time she got home, her husband had already been to the county morgue and had unfortunately identified a corpse as their son. So,
and the reason why he did not make it is because he went to the back right-hand corner of the store. And they were so trapped by fire. So it was him and 6 other individuals who were all young women. And they, you know, you had all these other people who were pulling people out, who were, you know, like I said, the janitor was like...
Yeah, Luther, like, realized what happened, busted out the windows and started just dragging people and throwing them out.
And then, like, Anna went to go find her sister, and she did find her sister, but then they were, like, in a pileup of people when she found her, and they both died in that right-hand corner of the store where it was all blocked off. They said Frida's face was so crazed with fear that they couldn't identify her right away, which is like, I can't imagine dying by a fire like that, like a smoky, chaotic like fire. But at least I guess she past with her sister. Like,
yeah, there was another eyewitness who said that they saw like Anna trying to pull Frida toward the front, and then they both fell, and the last that somebody saw them, they were like hugging each other. They had their arms around each other.
So Ed Bolton, who was the guy that worked next door, he dragged people out of the building as well, and then went back in on his hands and knees until the fire drove him out again. And then he helped hold the firemen nets.
But then a girl who jumped out the window opened her umbrella, Mary Poppins style. And he was like trying to yell at her, like, don't fucking do that. But she landed in the net and her umbrella smashed into his arm and broke it.
What is her umbrella? Well, I guess, to be fair, physics is on her side. 9.8 meters per second slamming into him.
And then this motherfucker had his arm like set essentially, changed his clothes, and then went back to fucking work shipping out holiday orders.
I'm not gonna lie though, I was like, oh, that's something I would do. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Listen, this was the first weekend I had where I didn't have like a multitude of things I had to do on my like 2 consecutive days off, and I haven't done anything. And I'm like, man, there is no guilt like Capricorn guilt that says you should have been doing these 8 other things that you finally have time to do. Why are you not doing that? Why are you resting? What is rest? Why are you doing that, Beth? Why you want sleep? Absolutely not. You should be doing these 4 other projects. I don't think that's just a Capricorn
thing, because I do that too.
I'm like, you should be catching up with stuff so then you can rest. And I'm like, stop it.
That's literally like my thought this morning. I got up so early before I came here so that I could do a bunch of shit, because I'm like, but this is like the 1 week where I could maybe get ahead on things and then it will be less bad in the future. Like, dumbass, you should have just slept in. Yeah. Also, maybe Fanny Frank was a freaking Capricorn, because she's up on the 2nd floor with her granddaughter Grace, and when she realized what happened, she went to the window, climbed out with her granddaughter on the ledge, and then jumped, and she held her and like fell so that she would take the brunt of it and her granddaughter would be like fine. And she literally said, I couldn't bear to think of what my daughter would say if the child was hurt. So she wasn't even like, I gotta save my own ass, or I gotta save my granddaughter. It's, I gotta save this kid because my daughter's gonna be pissed at me.
That Capricorn responsibility, man, it runs deep.
Yeah. Irma, who we mentioned earlier, who'd just been promoted to her position, she unfortunately died in the fire. When the fire started, she was trying to like keep everybody calm, but she was like at the staircase trying to keep everybody calm, and in like all of the panic and everything like that, she did not manage to make it out, and they found her body later by the back barred windows in the later afternoon.
Muriel, which was one of the clerks, she did escape. And then Emma Schaaf also she also escaped, and she pushed a woman and a child out the window. They're like, I'm scared. She's like, too bad.
Mm-hmm. And then the woman missed the net, but the little kid that jumped out hit the net and was okay.
Yeah.
The Muriel also, though, she did the thing that a lot of people do, which is she heard the firecrackers and her first thought was like, oh, it's outside, like it's like shitty kids doing it outside. Mm-hmm. Which is like the same thing, like people say that in like training for like active shooter things, like your brain always goes to like the most like normal neutral thing that it remembers. So a lot of times people hear gunshots and they think, oh, fireworks or car backfiring. So weird that that's not just like a new contemporary thing, that people have just always done that shit.
And then Carrie Boubel or Boubel? I don't know.
I don't know.
So she,
it's like Bublé.
She also, she got one of the typical injuries where she was able to escape, but she jumped and she missed. She didn't. I don't think she had anything to jump onto, so she
missed the net.
So she broke her left leg and sprained her right, which, you know, I guess that would suck. You wouldn't be able to walk for like I don't know, however long they did casts back then. So that would suck. But at least you'd be alive, right?
Mm-hmm. And then your favorite.
Mary. I got beef with Mary because I'm like, ma'am, I know $20 was a lot back then. But this is the most...
Where's my calculator?
most Karen fucking thing you could do.
Karen fucking thing.
So Mary, who had just handed her $20 bills to the clerk, she was paying for her items when like the explosion happened, was disoriented, but then recovered herself and began searching for the clerk who took her money. And so they're fighting for their lives here in the smoke and in the bullshit. And she goes up, she finds the clerk and she goes up and she shakes them and she goes,
$20 in 1908 was equivalent to $682.76 today.
Which again, okay, it's a lot of money, but is it worth your life?
That reminds me of who is it? It's like in Titanic. Where the rich motherfuckers are like trying to get out.
Yeah,
and the
guy's
just finally like, fuck you, and like leaves.
Yes.
And it's like, I'm not helping you. Figure it out.
Yes. She says, I want my money, give it to me. And the clerk was like, I haven't got it. Like they're trying to leave. They're like, what the hell, woman? And so she was upset. She wanted her $20 bill back.
This bitch is like out there amongst like people mourning the lost people who died. The firefighters are still trying to put it out, and this bitch is out there like sobbing and just repeating, I want my $20 bill, which is the opposite vibe from the I want my $2, which I love from what is that movie? It's John Cusack in the 80s. Is it Better Off Dead?
I thought, yes, I think that's
the paper
right.
Boy
Yes,
chasing him.
yes.
Like, $2! I want my $2! You got fucking Mary over here who's like, I want my $680!
Like, it infuriated me reading that because I'm like, ma'am, I guess spite kept you alive, but like...
You just know, too, that, like, with that attitude, like, this is the kind of bitch that's like, well, if they're getting free soup at the soup kitchen, I want free soup as well.
Right. Do you actually need that $20? Or, like, could you spare it? Did you buy $20 worth of shit?
I know.
Actually, that would
maybe
be
we're making a judgment call. Maybe that was, like, her life fucking savings, and we're just, like, making jokes about it. I don't know.
I just, people died.
People died, Kim.
So the fire was over in about an hour. So, before noon, technically on July 3rd, this fire was out. But it gutted both floors of the store and it was ruined. It wasn't until 12:30 that they could actually enter the building, and then they found the 7 bodies in the right alcove by the barred windows. The Captain James Granger of Fire Company No. 1 described it and said, I heard what sounded like the mewing of a cat. He said, I had heard that sound before, however, and I shuddered. There was a mass of humanity, it seemed, intertwined. There were 6 women. It seemed all had huddled together in the belief they would get air at that particular point, and when the fumes of the powder and paper became too strong, all had given up at the same time. The arms of most of them were free, but their legs were intertwined so that it would have been impossible for anyone to have dragged herself out. At the farther end of the bunch was a little lad. He was living. So that was Jimmy Parker, but he died shortly after he was removed from the store.
Yeah, which is possibly where, like, that person was like, no, like, he's fine, they got him out. Like, could have told his mom that. It had also started to rain at that point, so, like, the back alley was essentially just mud behind the store, and that's where they brought the bodies out to. And as they were sort of laying them out, they realized that 2 of the victims were still breathing. So there were 2 women who were trained nurses who sort of like pushed their way through like all of this chaos outside and tried to like revive them, resuscitate them. This was Irma Schumacher and then Elizabeth Rice, who was another clerk, who Irma, she didn't even make it to the hospital later that afternoon. And Elizabeth Rice recovered at a hospital, but she passed away by that evening.
And then, unfortunately, they had people that had to go, see the bodies and like mark and identify their loved ones. So poor George was sobbing. Two sisters of Mary Hughes had to identify her corpse by her teeth. And then a lot of people, because this was so chaotic and you had to spread people out, there were just people that would go in just being like, is that my girl? Is that like my, right, is that my daughter, sister? Is my wife? Is my sister? So that's how we're opening up July 4th. Yay fireworks. Right. So then of course they start doing an inquest and they start really investigating, like, how did this fire happen? Like, who's to blame? Who's at fault? So they had witnesses, they did cross-examination, and with a lot of contradictory testimony. So Winifred testified about her sparkler demonstration, but firmly denied that it caused the blaze. Which I get, Winnie, but I'm also like, ma'am.
I know. I mean, this whole next chunk is just like stupid, because it's like, just because something is legal doesn't mean it's right.
Right.
So like they had been, and like even the whole point is that she was like telling like Jimmy and his mom, like, look, they're harmless. Like, it's harmless fun. Like, it's not going to cause a fire. And then it happens anyway. And so like the whole like cross-examination and testimony of this inquest that follows on July 9th is that, like, no, sparklers are harmless. Like, that's not what the problem was. They were like, oh, well, no one in the store knew that those back windows were blocked off. So how would we know that that was like a fire hazard? And then they were like, well, what about how all the fireworks and everything were stored? And like, well, it's compliant with Ohio laws. Like, they didn't break any laws the way that they had that displayed and stored. And then they're like, well, did you ever do fire drills? Yeah. And they're like, no, we don't have to.
Fucking wild. You had 200 people in that store.
Right. So like, even though no one was legally at fault, like, that doesn't mean it was fucking right. So they said, essentially, like, it was concluded that it was due to carelessness and handling fireworks, but it wasn't pinned on any one person.
So, but Cleveland newspapers kind of pushed back on that, and so did public outrage for several weeks. And they were essentially like, there's too many deaths related to 4th of July fireworks. So on July 6, 1908, Cleveland Councilman Daniel Fall introduced the following ordinance in council: that no person, firm, or corporation shall within the city sell, offer the sale, or have in his or its possession or custody of any toy pistol, squib, rocket, crackers, or Roman candles, or other combustible fireworks, or any article for making of a pyrotechnic display. This ordinance was passed by a vote of 21-11 on the night of Monday, July 13th, and was soon signed into law by Mayor Tom Johnson. This was landmark legislation, so this didn't just affect, like, Cleveland was one of the first major cities to have this, which means other cities and
even other states.
And yes, they looked at this and they were like, yeah, we don't want to be like Cleveland.
Yeah. And the like phrasing of it was that they wanted a safe and sane 4th of July. And so that legislation sort of like spread across the country in this movement for like, all right, let's chill on the fucking blowing shit up type of situation.
I have to check and see, because we have state law, which has changed. Like, it used to be with state law, I think it was more restrictive. This is now less restrictive for fireworks and for fireworks selling. But it does say in the state law that if there's a city ordinance that says otherwise, you have to go by that city ordinance. So like if the city of Cleveland says that like you can't buy fireworks, but you go to like Sandusky because they have a giant fireworks store out there and buy them.
Right.
Legally, you are allowed to go buy them in Sandusky, but you may not be able to light them off in Cleveland. It just depends on what their ordinances say.
Right. And you know, at the time, like, you know, and following after that, the like this didn't stop casualty lists or things like this, but it was like less fires and death and more like loss of appendages or things like that, burns, things like that. And yeah, like, you know, these rules have like changed over the years, and disturbingly, like everything else in this country, there has been a recent push to be like, no, just let us blow shit up, we're Americans, why do we have to have laws and rules, let me be fucking stupid. So people really want to relax these restrictions, but then you still have like in all of this, like people kept bringing up just within like the last, it hasn't been that long, one of the New York Giants players like seriously injured his right hand because he was like setting off fireworks and it blew up in his hand. So like this is a professional athlete who like derailed his fucking career because he wanted to blow up some shit.
Right.
In the month around July 4th, an average of 230 people end up in emergency rooms each day with fireworks related injuries. In 2014, a safety commission recorded 11 non-occupational fireworks related deaths. So that's not like people who are professionally setting them off. It's like people who are bystanders in this or who are just like fucking around in their backyards. In 2014, 4 people died that year in house fires started by fireworks. My fear. 7 died following direct impact from the explosive devices. And from 2000 to 2014, there were an average of 7.1 fireworks related deaths each year. Jesus. So this is like a decade ago. So I don't know what the numbers look like now.
Yeah.
Probably worse.
So what we're trying to tell you for this holiday season, because let's be honest, people just be careful. And you know what? Maybe think twice about shooting off like fireworks.
Yes. And also pick your beer or your boom booms. Don't combine them.
Right. Right. And if you're going to look up Ohio law, because as I said, there is like a whole thing. So unless you live out with like an acre of land and you're going to be like 300 feet away from somebody
out in the more rural parts of Ohio and you're safe and you're like, you've cleared an area where this is not going to start like a brush fire on your property, then yeah, go nuts. Set off your fireworks. You've got the space for it. You're not catching anyone's house on fire. And as long as you're being careful setting it off, you're probably fine. Like, the restrictions are generally not for where you live. Still look it up, though. We're not telling you to break the law.
Right. Or this is for, like, people, you know, we live in a fairly suburban area, and we have people our backyards are not, they're right next to each other. Yes. So, like,
if your kid's frisbee can end up in my backyard, please don't set off fireworks indoors.
Yeah, and like for me, even though it's 3 houses down, it's so close that I literally can look out my bedroom window and they look like they're right above my house, which is goddamn insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're just telling you, like, once again, something terrible happens in Cleveland, so now there's laws to fix it, to make it better, but laws do change, and, you know, think twice before you buy fireworks in stores, and please, for the love of God, do not set off any fireworks in stores.
Yeah.
This is not Stranger Things, like...
No.
You're not fighting any demogorgons.
No.
Like, just straight up, do not put any sparklers in the stores. Now that we're talking about the statistics, now I'm like, and now that I'm a parent, I'm like, oh, mom, dad,
Like,
I get it. I get it.
I was allowed to play with sparklers, never alone. I always had to have either my mom or my dad there when I did it. And I had to stand in the middle of our driveway. Yep, I was not allowed near the edges. These were rules. And then other than that, we had the little snaps, like the paper ones that when you threw them down, they would pop. Mm-hmm. Like that's what I was allowed to play with for like 4th of July. I think my brother maybe had like the snakes.
The snake, yeah.
That would shrivel or like smoke, but that was
we played
like
with those as adults in my family's driveway, and we got yelled at because they leave like a black streak.
My dad would always get mad if my brother did it because it would like stay in the driveway.
Yeah, and I was just like, what does it matter? And oh my god, I was like, I'm an adult and I'm hearing about this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we played with smoke bombs too, but I'm just like, I get the smokes like colors, but I'm like, I don't get the appeal of walking through something that makes me go
yeah, me either.
Yeah, and sparkler, like I get it. I've now seen injuries with sparklers and stuff, so I'm like, I understand.
Do you think sparklers are kind of fun if you do like light painting with them? But I think that it's equally just as like, hand me a glow stick and I'll do it. Like, you don't necessarily need the sparkler to do it.
It's true. So, yeah, we're just trying to tell you, be safe. There's historical records, know your history of why fireworks are kind of scary. And
also, this is Sunday after 4th of July. Don't fucking set that shit off tomorrow. You're done.
Yeah.
You're done.
You're done.
I don't care that you spent your 1908 $20 bill and bought almost $700 worth of fireworks. You had a full week. You're done.
Yep.
You're done.
Otherwise, we hope you had a very nice holiday and a good, safe rest of the summer. And if you're interested, please check out our social media sites. I'm hoping to have Threads up and running by then, and maybe something else. I don't know yet. And please review us on social media, and don't give us 1 star because they'll be like, they don't like me playing with fireworks. 1 star.
To which I'd say, at least you have all your fingers to type your shitty review.
I need you around when I read like not that we, you know what, I feel like I'm prophesizing it right now, but like, not that we had anything like bad, but I'm just like, I need Britta around because I don't have the witty comebacks where I'm just like
when I yell at children and they're just like, why are you watching us when I broke the rules and I have to leave? I'd be like, because we only have 3 rules and you can't follow any of them, so how can I trust you to walk from here to there? Do you need a like stroller to push you out of the building? I don't even know if it's safe to let you walk on your own. You clearly don't understand how to be a human being.
Yeah. It doesn't come that quickly, and then afterwards I'm like, oh damn, I should have said this. Damn. So anyways, yeah, leave us some reviews, tell your friends, tell your enemies, and once again, thank you to our spooky sponsor.
Thank you, spooky sponsor. I'm doing like the sparkler dance from Grey Gardens.
And yeah, once again, I'm not going to wish you a happy Independence Day or anything like that because
we're living in hell times.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, but we hope that you stay spooky, friends.